From that day on, the supermarket orders suddenly became weirdly intense. High-energy compressed biscuits, medical gauze, portable gas canisters, things people usually only buy for gatherings. Suddenly someone was buying them by the crate. I stared at the sales data on the computer screen and rubbed my eyes. 347 boxes of compressed biscuits sold this month. It was 12 boxes for the same period last year. This wasn't right. As the owner of a suburban supermarket for 8 years, I knew the sales patterns of every item like the back of my hand. Compressed biscuits are the kind of thing that just gathers dust on the shelf, except for the occasional outdoor enthusiast who buys a few boxes. What's even weirder is the medical gauze. Yesterday, a young man in a suit bought 200 packs in one go. I remember it clearly because that was our entire stock, and he wanted all of it. The cashier, Zhao Liu, even ran over to ask me, "Boss, is this guy running a clinic?" I didn't think much of it then, but looking back at the records now, I realize something's wrong. Medical supplies like iodine and antibiotic ointments have all been selling in large quantities lately. Then there are the disposable gas canisters. We usually don't even sell a few of those in a month. Lately, people have been coming in every day to buy them, and always by the crate. I opened the surveillance footage and went back to yesterday afternoon. In the frame, the man in the suit who bought the gauze looked very agitated at the checkout, constantly checking his phone. He was speaking Korean. I couldn't understand him, but I recognized it because we're near the port and there are many Koreans around here. I took a few screenshots from the surveillance and sent them to a group chat with fellow shopkeepers. "Brothers, has anyone been buying compressed biscuits and medical supplies in bulk from you lately?" There was a quick response. Old Zhang replied, "Yeah, 3 people came yesterday and bought all the compressed biscuits I had." Sister Wang said, "Same here. The gas canisters are out of stock." Manager Chen wondered, "They're all Koreans, same here." The group chat exploded with everyone guessing. We wondered if a Korean company was organizing some big outdoor activity, but I felt an inexplicable sense of unease. I pulled up recent purchase orders and found that these bulk bought items had one thing in common. They were all doomsday survival supplies. Long-term food, medical emergency supplies, portable energy. I picked up my phone and called an old classmate who works in logistics at the port. "Is there anything big happening on the Korean side lately?" The other end of the line went silent for a few seconds. My heart sank. "What do you mean?" "The containers coming from Korea lately have been very strange. Customs is checking them strictly, but there are still many Koreans moving things over here." He lowered his voice. "It's all daily necessities and in huge quantities." After hanging up, I sat in the office and smoked a cigarette. Outside the window was a quiet street with people coming and going. Everything looked normal, but I knew something was happening. Early the next morning, I arrived an hour early to stake out the front of the shop. Sure enough, just after 7 o'clock, a commercial van parked at the entrance and 4 men got out. They were all Korean. I recognized one of them, the suit-wearing man who bought the gauze yesterday. After entering the store, they went straight to the shelves and started clearing them out. Compressed biscuits, canned food, bottled water, flashlights, batteries, and wine. I walked over and asked in broken Korean, "What are you buying so many things for?" The man in the suit froze. The others stopped and looked at him. He squeezed out a smile. Company, team building. Team building needs 200 packs of gauze?" The atmosphere suddenly became very delicate. The man's smile froze on his face. The others exchanged looks. An older man among them walked over and said in fluent Chinese, "We buy, you make money, don't ask so much." He pulled a stack of cash from his wallet. "We want all of this. Also, can you help us find more sources? Price is no object." 10,000 yuan in cash was placed in front of me. I stared at the money and then at their nervous expressions. What exactly was going on? The older man sighed, looked around, and lowered his voice. "Boss, I'll give you a piece of advice. Stock up on food yourself lately." "Why?" He didn't answer, just shook his head and quickly checked out with his men. I stood in front of the empty shelves, watching their car disappear around the corner. That sense of unease grew stronger. In the afternoon, I closed the shop and drove to the city's largest wholesale market. On the way, I kept thinking about the Korean man's words. Stock up on more food. At the wholesale market, I ran into several colleagues. We all tacitly understood that we were all snapping up the same things: instant noodles, canned goods, rice, and cooking oil. Old Zhang leaned in. "You noticed too?" I nodded. "Did you hear anything?" He said mysteriously, "I have a relative working in customs. They've seized several shipments of contraband recently." "What kind of contraband?" My hand shook, nearly dropping the goods I was holding. "Are you joking?" I wish it were a joke. Old Zhang's expression was serious. Also, they're already screening all Korean nationals at the port. Something big must have happened. Back at the shop, I let my employees leave early and sat alone staring at the computer. I opened a search engine and typed in the latest news from Korea. Nothing. Everything seemed normal, but the more it was like this, the more I felt something was wrong. At 10 p.m., just as I was about to close and go home, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, is this Boss Liu?" Yes. This is Park Seong-woo, who went to your store this morning. We need a large amount of supplies and want to talk to you about a long-term collaboration. What kind of collaboration? I hesitated. Boss Liu, he seemed to sense my hesitation. This concerns the life and death of many people, please. Life and death? I gripped the phone. Send me the address. An hour later, I was standing in front of a large warehouse at the port. Park Seong-woo was waiting at the door, looking haggard with bloodshot eyes. Thank you for coming. The warehouse was piled with various supplies, and dozens of Koreans were busy organizing and packing. I noticed a few people lying on makeshift beds in the corner, appearing ill. What is going on? Park Seong-woo took me to a quiet corner and took a deep breath. Boss Liu, we need your help. We can pay a lot, but you must keep this a secret. Tell me what happened first. He looked at me, eyes full of struggle. Finally, he took out his phone and pulled up a video. This was taken 3 days ago in a small city near Busan. I took the phone. The footage was shaky, likely shot covertly. Then I saw the most terrifying scene of my life. In the video, a person was biting another person's neck. It wasn't a metaphor. He was actually biting. The person being bitten was screaming as blood sprayed. What was even more terrifying was the one doing the biting. I don't know if you could even call him a person. His eyes were milky white. His skin was an unnatural gray, and his movements were distorted yet exceptionally fast. People around him were screaming and running. The scene changed to a chaotic street with these things chasing and biting normal people everywhere. Is this? My voice was trembling. Zombies? Park Seong-woo said the word directly, just like the movie Train to Busan. No, it's scarier than the movie. I put down the phone, my palms covered in sweat. How is this possible? We couldn't believe it either. Park Seong-woo smiled bitterly. But it's real. That small city fell completely within 2 days. The Korean government blocked all news and claimed to the world it was a chemical plant leak. What about the military? The military? He shook his head. Did you see their speed? Ordinary soldiers can't react in time. A regiment went in and lost contact after 3 hours. I leaned against the wall, my legs feeling a bit weak. Park Seong-woo continued, we were among the first to get the news. My brother works at the hospital in that city. He called me the night of the outbreak and told me to run. So you came to China? Korea is no longer safe, although the government is trying its best to control it. He pointed to the sick people in the corner. Some have already shown early symptoms. I recoiled sharply. Don't worry, the early stage isn't contagious. Only if you're bitten, he said quickly. We've isolated them and are looking for a way. Are you crazy? I growled in a low voice. Bringing this kind of thing to China? We had no choice. Park Seong-woo became agitated too. The Korean government isn't doing anything, just trying to cover up the truth. We can only save ourselves. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. What do you want me to do? Supplies. He looked at me earnestly. A massive amount of supplies. Food, medicine, fuel, the more the better. Are you planning to build a shelter here? It's not just us. Park Seong-woo pointed to the warehouse. There are over 300 people here who escaped in advance. Many more are on the way. Does the Chinese government know? He went silent. That was the answer. My mind was racing. This was too big for a supermarket owner like me to handle. I had to call the police. Boss Liu, Park Seong-woo seemed to see through my thoughts and suddenly knelt down. I know this is selfish, but I beg you, give us a little time to isolate the infected properly. If you call the police now, the scene will descend into chaos. They'll scatter and it will be even more dangerous. The other Koreans saw this and also knelt down. Over 300 people were kneeling on the ground in a row. I took a deep breath. Listen up, I must call the police. This is a matter of principle. You brought these people into China. And you've already broken the law. I can't hide it for you. Park Seong-woo's face turned ashen. But, I continued, I can give you 2 hours. Before the police arrive, isolate all the infected together. This will be better for everyone, understood? He nodded heavily, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Boss Liu, thank you. Why thank me? I waved my hand. I just don't want to see more people die. Get everything ready that needs to be ready. Isolate whoever needs to be isolated, and cooperate honestly when the police get here. Also, I looked at him. Compile all the video data and the information you know for me. I need to provide evidence when I report this. Okay, no problem. He quickly sent people to prepare. Over the next 3 hours, I obtained the most important information of my life. The source of the virus is unknown. It first appeared near a biological research institute. The incubation period is 12 to 24 hours. Early symptoms resemble a severe cold. Later stages involve extreme bloodlust and aggression. Transformation can happen as quickly as 15 minutes after being bitten. There is no cure. The scariest part is that these zombies retain some instinct and move in packs. They are tireless and don't need rest. Their only goal is to find living people. Ordinary door locks can't stop them at all. Park Seong-woo showed me another video. They would ram a door over and over until the door broke. So how do you defend? Metal security doors can hold for a while, but it's best to hide in basements or high-rise buildings. They don't know how to use tools, and their ability to climb stairs is limited. He also taught me many doomsday survival techniques. How to purify water, how to store food long-term, how to make simple weapons, and how to judge if a place is safe. And the most important point. Park Seong-woo said seriously, don't trust anyone. In the end times, people are scarier than zombies. At 2 a.m., I left the warehouse. Park Seong-woo gave me a hard drive containing all the video data as evidence for the police report. On the drive home, my hands wouldn't stop shaking, but I knew I had to do the right thing. Hello, this is the 110 Emergency Center. I want to report an urgent matter. I tried to keep my voice steady. There's a group of Koreans at the port who entered the country illegally, and some of them are infected with a dangerous zombie virus. Sir, please be clear. What virus? I took a deep breath. It's like rabies but scarier. Bitten people become extremely violent and attack others. I have video evidence. The other end went silent for a few seconds. Sir, are you sure you're not joking? I know it sounds absurd, but I'm telling the truth. I gave him the details and the specific location. I also left my contact information. After hanging up, I didn't know if they would take it seriously. After all, this kind of thing sounds like a fairy tale, but I had done what I had to do. The rest depended on how the police handled it. I thought about it again. What if the police didn't take it seriously? What if they thought it was a prank? I opened my phone, found the mayor's hotline number, and called again, repeating the same information. The response was similar to 110, skeptical but said they would send someone to verify. I sat in the car and smoked a cigarette. I'd done what I could, but the unease didn't fade. Verification takes time. What if something happened in the meantime? I made a second decision. Regardless, I had to protect my family first. If all this were real, I looked out at the quiet streets through the car window and imagined them turning into hell. I had called the police, but I didn't know when they would act. What if it was too late? No, I had to make double preparations. I had reported it, but I couldn't rely on others to protect my family. The next day, I began taking action. In the name of expanding my business, I took a $1,000,000 loan from the bank and started buying things frantically with that money. 500 caddies of rice, 300 caddies of flour, 50 barrels of cooking oil, 2,000 various cans, compressed biscuits, instant noodles, beef jerky. I took any food that could be stored long-term. I also bought generators, solar panels, water purifiers, walkie-talkies, high-powered flashlights, and toolboxes. The employees all thought I was crazy. Boss, if you buy so much, can we even sell it? Zhao Liu asked worriedly. Don't worry, it's all useful, I replied dismissively. I had a detached house in the suburbs originally intended for retirement. The basement was huge. I had people reinforce the doors and windows and install metal security doors. Truckload after truckload of supplies were delivered to the basement. I also specifically bought several large freezers to store meat and vegetables. Park Seong-woo called. Boss Liu, the police came. They asked a lot of questions, took notes, and said they would report to their superiors. But they didn't take anyone away. They just told us not to wander around and wait for notification. My heart skipped a beat. This kind of thing involved international issues and epidemic prevention protocols. It was bound to be complicated. But time waits for no one. The situation was worsening. A third city had seen infections. The Korean government was still trying to cover it up, but the public was starting to panic. Are the symptoms of your people under control? I asked. The other end was silent for a long time. 3 people have already been handled by us. Handled. I knew what that meant. Boss Liu, I received word. The Korean government is preparing to block all outbound routes. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late. How many more people are coming? At least 1,000. 1,000 potential sources of infection. I gripped my phone tight. Park Seong-woo, you must promise that under no circumstances will you let any infected into the city. I promise. We will establish a quarantine zone at the port. No one with symptoms can leave. After hanging up, I looked at the basement full of supplies. Is it enough? I didn't know, but I had done my best. In the evening, I picked up my wife and daughter and took them to the suburban house. Why are we moving so suddenly? My wife asked, puzzled. Business hasn't been good lately, and city rent is too high. Let's move back to the suburbs for a while. My daughter was quite happy. The suburbs are great. There's so much space. I can have a puppy now. Seeing her innocent smile, I felt a pang of sadness. I hoped all of this was just me overthinking it because the videos were fake. I really hoped so. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., my phone suddenly vibrated. It was Park Seong-woo. Something happened. My heart sank to the bottom. Someone at the port got sick and bit 2 customs officers. Now the port is locked down, but what? Several infected people escaped. Toward the city. Damn it. I had called the police long ago. Why? Boss Liu, it's not your fault. Park Seong-woo's voice was tearful. The police did come to investigate. But this new virus has an incubation period. In the early stages, current testing can't distinguish it. They just thought it was a common cold. And the mutation rate is too fast. Before experts could verify and study it, the infected couldn't wait. I jumped out of bed and rushed to the window. The city in the distance was brightly lit as usual, the calm before the storm. Boss Liu, Park Seong-woo's voice was crying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, you should take your family and leave quickly, as far away as possible, as far away as possible. I hung up the phone and woke my wife to pack. We're leaving right now. What? In the middle of the night? Don't ask, just move. Perhaps because my expression was so serious, my wife didn't say anything more and quickly woke our daughter as we were packing. From the distance came the sound of sirens. 1, 2, 10. Sirens were blaring all across the city. I rushed to the balcony and saw flames rising toward the city center. An emergency notification popped up on my news app. Unexplained unrest at the city port. Citizens are advised not to travel there. I turned off my phone. It was too late. The end had come. Daddy, why is it so noisy outside? My daughter asked, rubbing her eyes. I knelt down and hugged her. Sweetie, we're going to play a game of hide and seek. No one can find us, okay? My wife had realized something was wrong, but she was smart enough not to show it in front of our daughter. We quickly packed our essentials and prepared to retreat to the basement. Just then the phone rang. It was the supermarket employee, Zhao Liu. Boss, did you see the news? There are monsters at the port. His voice was filled with terror. Zhao Liu, where are you? I'm on the night shift at the store. Boss, it's already chaotic outside. Lots of people are looting things. I checked the time, 4 a.m. Zhao Liu, listen to me. Lock the store doors immediately and hide in the warehouse. Don't come out. But boss. The sound of breaking glass came through the phone, followed by Zhao Liu's scream. Zhao Liu. The call disconnected. I took a deep breath and made a decision. You go down to the basement first, I told my wife. Where are you going? There are some important things at the store. I have to go. My wife grabbed my hand. It's too dangerous. I looked into her eyes. There's enough food and water in the basement. I've tested the generator. No matter what happens, do not come out. I handed her the basement keys and a note. This is Park Seong-woo's contact information. If I don't come back, call him. He knows what to do. Before my wife could respond, I turned and left. The streets were already starting to fall into chaos. People were running. People were screaming. The fire in the distance was getting bigger and bigger. Police and ambulance sirens sounded one after another. I drove at high speed to the supermarket. Sure enough, the entrance had been smashed open. Shelves were overturned, and a dozen people were frantically looting inside, carrying out whatever they could. I didn't stop them. Now wasn't the time to worry about that. I went straight to the office where the things I truly needed were spare keys, cash, and a detailed list of suppliers. Passing the warehouse, I heard movement inside. Zhao Liu didn't respond. I carefully pushed open the door and shone my flashlight inside. Zhao Liu was curled in a corner, his body shivering uncontrollably. There was a deep wound on his arm, bleeding profusely. Boss, he said weakly. A madman rushed in, biting anyone he saw. My heart sank. Bitten. According to Park Seong-woo, the transformation would happen in 15 minutes at the earliest. Zhao Liu, how do you feel? So cold, so hungry. His eyes began to turn white. I took a step back. Boss, am I going to die? Zhao Liu started to cry. I didn't know what to say. This young man had been with me for 3 years. He usually didn't say much but worked very hard. Boss, you should leave. Zhao Liu seemed to realize something as well. I don't feel right. I gritted my teeth and pulled a bottle of medicine Park Seong-woo had given me from my pocket. This might help. In fact, I knew it wouldn't. It was just a strong sedative, at most delaying the symptoms, but at least it would let him go peacefully. Zhao Liu took the medicine and slowly closed his eyes. I took one last look at him, closed the door, and blocked it with a shelf from the outside. I'm sorry, Zhao Liu. I grabbed the things I needed and quickly left the supermarket. The situation on the streets was even worse. A police car was sideways in the middle of the road, its windshield covered in blood. Not far away, several people were attacking a police officer. No, they weren't attacking. They were biting him. Zombies. They really were zombies. I turned the car around and chose another route. I had to hurry. First, I went to the nearest gas station. I filled the tank and bought 10 spare fuel cans. The gas station employees had already fled. I just left the money and left. Next was a 24-hour large supermarket. It was already in total chaos. Shopping carts were crashed together, and goods were scattered everywhere. People were frantically grabbing food, even coming to blows over a bag of rice. I avoided the crowds and headed straight for the section I needed. The medicine section had been looted, but I knew the staff passage behind the backup warehouse had more stock. I kicked open the door and sure enough, there was still plenty. Antibiotics, painkillers, disinfectants, vitamins. I loaded everything I could into a shopping cart. Passing the fresh food section, I saw a horrific sight. A zombie was hunched over the meat counter feeding. It wasn't eating beef, it was eating a person. Several nearby customers were terrified out of their wits, but the exit was blocked. Go through the staff passage, I shouted. The survivors snapped out of it and followed me toward the back door. The zombie heard the noise and looked up, snarling. I pushed the shopping cart and sprinted. Screams came from behind me. Someone didn't make it. I rushed out of the supermarket, threw the items into the car, and continued to the next stop. This place was relatively quiet. After all, most people were thinking of food, not tools. I bought a chainsaw, an axe, a hammer, nails, wire, rope, anything that might come in handy. The owner knew me. Boss Liu, it's the middle of the night. What are you doing? Renovations, I said casually. He looked at me suspiciously, but for the sake of the cash, he didn't ask further. The last stop was the wholesale market. It hadn't been hit yet, but an air of unease was already spreading. Some well-informed wholesalers were already loading their trucks, preparing to leave. I found several familiar suppliers. Old Wang, how much rice and flour do you have left in the warehouse? Old Liu, why are you here now? Old Wang asked in surprise. Don't ask, I'll take as much as you have. Cash payment, seeing the stacks of cash I pulled out. Old Wang's eyes lit up. There are 3 tons of rice and 2 tons of flour in the warehouse. I'll take it all. Also oil, seasonings, canned goods. What are you doing? Opening a refugee camp. I didn't answer and continued listing items. Other suppliers saw this and gathered around. We're all business people, as long as there's money to be made, they won't ask much. After 2 hours of frantic work, I had secured a massive amount of supplies. I'll send you the address. It must be delivered before dawn. I'll pay double for the rush fee. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. As I left the wholesale market, the sky was already graying. Thick smoke was billowing from the direction of the city. My phone kept popping up with news alerts. Emergency notice. The city has entered a state of emergency. Citizens, please stay home and do not go out. The military has entered the city. I turned off my phone and focused on driving. Near home, I saw a small convenience store still open, one last stop. I rushed in and cleared out all the batteries, lighters, candles, and flashlights. The owner was a middle-aged woman. Young man, what's happening outside? I heard something about the port. Sister, take my advice and go home quickly. Lock your doors and windows and prepare enough water and food. Regardless of what you hear, don't open the door. She was stunned. I left the money and turned to leave. When I got home, my wife and daughter were waiting for me in the basement. Seeing me return safely, my wife threw herself into my arms and cried. I thought, it's okay, we're safe. Over the next few hours, delivery trucks arrived one after another. I had the drivers unload everything in the garage. The entrance to the basement couldn't be exposed. The drivers were talking among themselves. I listened silently and gave them extra tips. Brothers, go home early. After everyone had left, I began moving the supplies into the basement. My wife helped me move them. My daughter looked around curiously. Daddy, how long are we going to stay here? Not too long, sweetie, I said, stroking her head. I had modified the basement with an independent ventilation system and a generator. The walls were soundproofed, and I had installed surveillance to see outside. There was enough food and water for a year. Weapons. I looked at those hardware tools, hoping I'd never have to use them. At 7 p.m. We sat around the basement eating dinner. On the TV, the news anchor was still using official jargon. Please do not panic. The government has the ability to control the situation. The screen flickered, and the signal cut out. The power was out. I started the generator, and the basement lit up again. My wife finally couldn't help asking what exactly happened. I took a deep breath and told her the truth. Her face grew paler and paler. Zombies. You're saying? Zombies? Yes. How is that possible? I wished it were impossible too, but I turned on the monitor. In the frame, there were no longer any normal people on the street, only those staggering, blood-covered figures wandering aimlessly. One of the zombies walked to my door and started banging. Thump, 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 one after another, mechanical and persistent, never tiring. My daughter crawled into my wife's arms in fear. I turned off the monitor. Don't be afraid, I said, not knowing if I was comforting them or myself. The door is very sturdy, they can't get in. But I knew in my heart this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come. That night, the sound of banging on the door lasted all night. None of us slept. My daughter asked me, Daddy, do I still have to go to school tomorrow? I looked at her innocent eyes, my throat tightening. No, sweetie, school is on break. A very, very long break. Perhaps it would never end. The next morning, the banging finally stopped. I checked the surveillance. That zombie was gone, but it had left streaks of blood on the door. There were even more zombies on the street now. Occasionally, I could see survivors poking their heads out of windows, but they quickly withdrew. Everyone was waiting for rescue, waiting for a miracle. Park Seong-woo sent a message. The port has completely fallen. The military has retreated. Good luck, I replied. What about you, hiding in the warehouse? There are still over 100 people, but food is running out. Hang in there. Boss Liu, thank you. The messages ended there. I knew what he wanted to say, but it was too late for anything now. I put down my phone and looked at the mountain of supplies in the basement. At least I had protected my family. At least we were still alive. That was enough. On the third day, we heard gunshots, dense gunfire accompanied by explosions from the direction of the city. My daughter covered her ears. Daddy, is there a war outside? It's not a war, sweetie. They're cleaning up the bad things. My wife hugged her tightly, her eyes full of fear. I turned on the radio, trying to get information from the outside world. Only one military channel was still broadcasting. All survivors, please stay indoors. Do not go out. The military is clearing the infected. Repeat, do not go out. Infected. They were still using that word, not daring to admit they were zombies. Through the surveillance, I saw armored vehicles appear at the end of the street. Soldiers were fully armed, using flamethrowers to clear the zombies. The effect was obvious. Zombies were afraid of fire, but there were too many of them. After one batch was cleared, another came, an endless stream. They were evolving. In the afternoon, the gunfire gradually thinned out. Then a heart-wrenching scene occurred. A soldier was bitten and his comrade had to shoot him. Other soldiers began to retreat. The armored vehicles turned around and left, leaving the streets full of bodies. The military had retreated. We were abandoned. My wife cried. How can this be? How can they just leave like that? I hugged her. Maybe it's just a tactical retreat. They'll come back. They definitely will. Have faith in our troops. At night, I ventured up to check the situation. Although the basement was safe, we couldn't be completely isolated. I needed to know the real situation outside. I carefully opened the basement door, held my breath, and listened. The house was very quiet. I gripped my fire axe and slowly walked up the stairs. The living room windows had been nailed shut with wooden boards, but I could still see outside. Bodies lay scattered across the street, both zombies and humans. The blood had turned black, and flies were buzzing. I suppressed my nausea and observed the surroundings. The window of old Wang's house across the street was broken, and the curtains were fluttering in the wind. Their family of 5, including 2 children. I didn't dare think more. Then I noticed a figure on the 3rd-floor balcony. It was old Lee. He was waving at me. We communicated with gestures. Speaking was too dangerous as it would attract zombies. He pointed to his stomach and made an eating motion. He had nothing to eat. I thought about it, went back to the basement, and grabbed a backpack filled with compressed biscuits and water. How could I get it to him? It was too far, and it would make too much noise. I found a roll of fishing line, tied the backpack to one end, and tied a small stone to the other. After aiming a few times, I finally threw the stone onto old Lee's balcony. He carefully gathered the line and pulled up the backpack. Then he knelt down. Across the 20-meter gap, I saw him crying. I waved my hand to tell him not to do that. We were neighbors, we help when we can. Back in the basement, my wife asked worriedly, "How is it outside?" "Not great," I told the truth. "But we are safe. Can you contact anyone else? Your parents?" "My parents." I shook my head. The phone had long since lost its signal. The last call was yesterday. My dad said things were still calm on their end and told us to take care. After that, we couldn't get through. On the 7th day, the supermarket was breached. Not by zombies, but by people. A group of survivors had gathered, used a truck to ram the supermarket doors, and began frantically hauling away supplies. The scene descended into chaos. 2 men fought over a box of instant noodles. One pulled a knife, and the other fell in a pool of blood. No one cared. Everyone was looting. In the chaos, someone knocked over a shelf, and the loud crash attracted the zombies. Screams, gunshots, and wails mingled together. People are scarier than zombies, I muttered to myself. What? Nothing. I turned off the monitor. I couldn't let her see this. She needed to keep hope. On the 7th day, our bottleneck was broken. Someone came knocking on the door. Help us. Help us. It sounded very weak. Through the surveillance, I saw 3 people at the door. A young couple and an old lady. They were dressed in rags and clearly hadn't eaten in a long time. My wife looked at me. Should we open the door? I hesitated. Reason told me I shouldn't. At a time like this, trust is a luxury. The woman was wailing. The old lady indeed looked very weak, only able to stand by leaning on her son. My daughter pulled at my sleeve. I looked at my wife, then at my daughter. If we were the ones outside, we'd hope someone would lend a hand, wouldn't we? Step back a bit, I said through the door. I opened it a crack and handed out some water and food. The woman cried as she thanked me. Hurry up and leave. But the man spoke up. We have nowhere else to go. Please let us come in and hide for a bit, just for one night. I'm sorry. I hardened my heart. I have a family to protect too. Just as I was about to close the door, the old lady suddenly spoke. I understand, but listen to me. The military in the south is setting up a safety zone. They have an organized evacuation. In 3 days, they'll come to this area to pick people up. A safety zone? How do you know? The old lady pulled a walkie-talkie from her coat. My son used to be a signalman. This is a military channel. He turned on the walkie-talkie, and intermittent voices came through. Zone B cleared. Zone C expected to establish a quarantine point the day after tomorrow. It really was a military voice. I was tempted. Where exactly is it? The Southern Sports Center. The old lady said. But the road is dangerous. We need to look out for each other. I understood what she meant. Trading information for shelter. I looked back at my wife. She nodded slightly. All right, I'll open the door, but you must follow the rules. Of course, of course. They were incredibly grateful as they entered. I took them to a guest room. Stay here. The basement is off limits. Do not approach it. Understood. I prepared food and water for them. The old lady looked a bit better. You're very well prepared, she said meaningfully. I didn't respond. At dinner, we all sat together. From the conversation, I learned the man was named Chen Yong, the woman was Xiao Mei, and the old lady was Chen Yong's mother. They had originally lived in the city center and fled the night of the outbreak. They had been wandering for days, surviving by scavenging trash cans for food. Xiao Mei cried as she said she saw her neighbors turn into monsters. Chen Yong comforted her. The old lady, however, was very calm. This is the end of the world, survival of the fittest. She looked at me. Young man, how did you prepare so thoroughly? Just lucky, I said vaguely. She smiled and didn't press further. At night, I couldn't sleep. My wife was sleeping soundly beside me, and my daughter was also fast asleep, but I still felt uneasy. At 3 a.m. I quietly got up to check the doors and windows. Passing the guest room, I heard voices inside. Mom, are you sure there are lots of supplies in the basement? It was Chen Yong's voice. Definitely. Didn't you see the food he gave us? It's all new. Where would an ordinary person get so much stock? The old lady said. Let's not rush. Let's figure out the situation first. There are 3 of them, and there are 3 of us. If it really comes to a fight, it's not certain who. My heart sank to the bottom. Park Seong-woo was right. In the end times, people are scarier than zombies. I silently returned to the bedroom and woke my wife, mouthing that they were trouble. My wife's face turned white instantly. We have to strike first. At 4 a.m. I made a decision. We couldn't wait until dawn. We had to act now. I quietly woke my wife and had her take our daughter to hide in the innermost safety room of the basement. It had its own lock and ventilation system. Through a gap in the curtains, I saw over a dozen people appear on the street. The leader was Zhao Liu? No, impossible. I saw him get infected with my own eyes. Looking closer, it was Zhao Zong, another employee from the supermarket. The people behind him were supermarket employees and some familiar faces. This is bad. I rushed into the basement, quick into the safety room. My wife picked up our daughter and ran. Just then, the sound of breaking glass came from upstairs. Someone was smashing the windows. Found it. The basement is here. It was Chen Yong's voice. They knew where the basement was. I helped my wife and daughter into the safety room and locked the door from the outside. No matter what happens, do not come out. Honey, my wife cried as she pulled at me. Trust me, I pried her hand away and turned to rush out. At the entrance of the basement, Chen Yong was coming down with several others. Their eyes turned red when they saw the room full of supplies. Good Lord, how much is here? Chen Yong saw me and flashed a smug smile. Boss Liu, those who understand the times are wise. Your family can't finish all of this. Why not? I didn't let him finish. I threw the fire axe directly at him. He dodged, but the person behind him wasn't so lucky. Blood sprayed. He made his move. A melee began. Space in the basement was limited, which actually made it harder for a crowd to maneuver. I held the stairs like a one-man army, but there were too many of them. I saw 1 and 2 more surged up behind. My arm was slashed, blood flowing freely, and my leg was hit with a club. I couldn't hold on much longer. Just then, screams came from outside. Ah, monsters! Monsters are here! Run! Zombies! The shouting, the banging on doors, and the fighting had attracted the zombies. The people who had rushed into the basement tried to escape, but the stairs were blocked by me. The people outside trying to get in were being chased by zombies and were desperately pushing their way inside. The scene was in total chaos. I took the opportunity to retreat behind a pile of supplies. At the basement entrance, humans and zombies were tangled together. Screams, roars, and shouts merged into one. Blood stained the stairs. A zombie lunged at Chen Yong and bit right into his neck. His screams were particularly shrill. Zhao Zhang tried to run but was pushed down by someone behind him, then swallowed by the swarming zombies. In just a few minutes, most of the intruders were killed or wounded. The rest scattered and fled, but there were too many zombies. The street was black with them, at least 100. They gathered, smelling the blood. I pushed back to the entrance of the safe room to ensure the safety of my wife and daughter. Zombies began pouring into the basement, trampling the bodies as they came down, letting out low growls. I gripped my axe. It was a last stand. When the first zombie rushed over, I split his head open with one swing. The second one, the third one, I lost track of how many I cut down. My hands were already numb and I was just mechanically swinging the axe. But there were too many, I couldn't kill them all. Just as I was about to give out, an explosion sounded from upstairs. Someone had detonated a gas tank. The massive shockwave knocked me to the ground. My ears ringing and my vision blurred. Flames licked down from the stairwell. The house was on fire. The zombies were afraid of fire and began to retreat, but we were trapped too. The smoke grew thicker. It wouldn't do, we had to leave. I scrambled up and kicked open the safe room door. Quick, we have to go. My wife rushed out holding our daughter and headed for the back door. There was an emergency exit in the basement leading to the backyard. I led the way with my wife close behind. Pushing open the back door, outside was hell too, zombies and corpses everywhere. The house was burning, thick smoke billowing. Stay close to me. I held my axe and charged in a direction with fewer zombies, kicking aside the bodies blocking our path. My wife shielded our daughter and followed closely behind me through the backyard and over the fence. Ahead was a small grove of trees. Into the woods, quickly. The zombies were chasing us, but their speed slowed down in the woods. We ran for our lives, not daring to look back. Branches tore at our clothes and scratched our skin, but no one cared. Staying alive was all that mattered. After running for who knows how long, the sounds behind us gradually faded. We hid behind a dirt mound, gasping for air. Daddy, our home is gone, my daughter said, crying. I hugged her. It's okay, baby. We're still together. My wife leaned against me, trembling all over. We had lost everything. Our house, our supplies, our safe haven. But at least we were alive. I checked our belongings. We had fled in such a rush that I only had time to grab one backpack. Inside were some compressed biscuits, 2 bottles of water, a flashlight, a first aid kit, and that blood-stained fire axe. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. "Where are we going?" my wife asked. I remembered what the old lady had said. "The South City Stadium," I said. "Let's go and try our luck." Maybe what she said was true. Maybe there really is a safe zone there. Maybe we still have hope. It was dawn, and sunlight filtered through the leaves. A new day had begun, but our flight was just beginning. Looking back, our home was still burning, black smoke rising into the sky. It buried the greed and lives of too many people, including Chen Yong's family, who had betrayed us. Ironically, no one ended up with the supplies they wanted. It all turned to ash. "Daddy," my daughter suddenly asked, "why did those uncles and aunties try to steal our things?" I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain the ugliness of human nature to a child? Because they were too hungry, was all I could say in the end. Then, if we shared our food with them, would they have not turned into monsters, out of the mouths of babes? But she was right. If we had shared from the beginning, maybe it wouldn't have ended like this. But then again, who could guarantee they wouldn't demand more after sharing? The human heart is unpredictable, especially at the end of the world. Let's go. I stood up. We have a long way to go. Supporting each other, the three of us disappeared into the depths of the woods. Behind us was a burning past, ahead was an unknown tomorrow. After leaving the woods, we reached the highway on the outskirts of the city. The scene here was even more desolate than the downtown area. Abandoned cars were strewn across the road, some with doors wide open and bloodstains inside. It seemed the owners had met with misfortune while fleeing. The gas station by the road had been looted, the convenience store glass was shattered, and shelves were overturned on the floor. Most terrifying were the corpses. Some were rotting and emitting a foul stench, while others were fresh, indicating a fight had occurred here recently. "Don't look." I covered my daughter's eyes, but she still peeked through the gaps in my fingers. This was the reality of the apocalypse, so cruel that there was no escaping it. We moved carefully along the highway, trying to stick to the woods by the roadside. Open areas were too dangerous. We could encounter a swarm of zombies at any moment. After walking about 2 kilometers, a small service area appeared ahead. "Daddy, I'm thirsty," my daughter whispered. We were out of water and had to risk going inside for supplies. "You guys wait here," I said to my wife. "No, we go together." She shook her head firmly. "We can't be separated again." She was right. Being separated was more dangerous. We cautiously approached the service area. There were a few bodies in the parking lot, but no active zombies were visible. The service area doors were wide open, and the inside was a mess. I gripped my axe and was the first to enter. The shelves had long been emptied, with only shredded packaging left on the floor. But behind the checkout counter, I found a case of bottled water, likely hidden by an employee. Having found water, we each drank a bottle and packed a few more in the backpack. Just then, the sound of an engine came from outside. A vehicle was coming. We quickly hid behind the counter. A pickup truck pulled up at the door, and 4 people got out. 3 men and 1 woman, all armed. "Hurry up and search. There must be something left here." The leader, a burly bald man, said. "Boss, this place has already been searched," a skinny guy replied. "Search it again anyway. Don't miss any nooks or crannies." They began rummaging through the service area. We held our breath, not daring to move. My daughter seemed to sense the danger and hugged her mother tightly without making a sound. The footsteps grew closer and closer. They were about to find us. Just then the roar of zombies sounded outside. "Crap, they're here. Get in the truck, fast." That group rushed outside. The pickup started, its tires screeching against the ground. I peeked out and saw a large swarm of zombies pouring from the other end of the highway, at least 50 or 60 of them. The pickup sped away with the swarm of zombies in pursuit. However, a few zombies noticed the service area. They changed direction and headed toward us. "Quick! The back door!" We rushed toward the back door of the service area. It was locked. I smashed the lock with my axe. The clanging was exceptionally loud in the empty service area. Hearing the noise, the zombies behind us picked up their pace. "Hurry!" my wife urged anxiously. The lock finally broke open. We rushed out the back door into an overgrown, empty lot. "This way!" I pulled them toward an abandoned factory nearby. The zombies were in hot pursuit. These zombies were a bit different from the ones we'd encountered before. They ran faster and were more coordinated. They had evolved. The factory gates were tightly shut. We circled to the side and found a broken window. "Get in first." I lifted my daughter and helped her climb in, followed by my wife. I was the last to climb through. Just as I landed, a zombie's hand reached in, its pale arm flailing at the window, nails scratching the glass with an ear-piercing sound. "Go further inside." The factory was huge, filled with discarded machinery and junk. We found stairs in a corner and went up to the second floor. The second floor was an office area with several separate offices. We hid in the one furthest inside. I locked the door. We were finally safe, for now. "Daddy, will those monsters come up here?" My daughter asked softly. "No, baby, they're very clumsy at climbing stairs." Actually, I wasn't sure. Who knew if these evolved zombies could climb stairs? The office was covered in dust, appearing to have been abandoned for a long time. There were some moldy documents on the desk. In the corner sat a water dispenser, but it had long been dry. "Let's rest here for a bit." My wife nodded. She looked exhausted. We had been on the run since morning, and our physical strength was heavily depleted. I checked our remaining supplies. We had 8 pieces of compressed biscuits, 4 bottles of water, 1 first aid kit, and 1 flashlight, though I didn't know how much longer it would last. At the most economical rate, this food would last 3 days at most. We had to find new supplies as soon as possible. "Sleep for a while," I told my wife and daughter. "I'll keep watch." They huddled together and soon fell asleep. The exhaustion of the flight made it impossible for them to hold out any longer. I sat by the door, watching the movement outside through the crack in the door. From downstairs came the occasional sound of zombie footsteps. They were still wandering in the factory. Around 3 in the afternoon, I heard a different sound, human voices. "There are zombies here. Be careful. Doesn't look like many. Clear them out." This was followed by the sounds of fighting and the growls of zombies. 10 minutes later, everything fell silent. Footsteps came up the stairs. I gripped my axe. The footsteps stopped in the hallway. "Looks like someone's been on this floor," a young man said. "Search separately. Remember, if you find living people, don't attack yet. See if they're of any use." They were searching each room, getting closer and closer. I woke my wife and made a hushing gesture. The doorknob turned slightly. "This one's locked. Someone's definitely inside. Break it open?" "No, let's talk first." A knock sounded at the door. "Friends inside, we mean no harm. Let's come out and talk." The voice sounded friendly, but in the apocalypse, friendliness is often a trap. I didn't respond. "I know you're in there. We just cleared the zombies downstairs. You're safe for now." Still silence. "All right, I understand your concerns. Tell you what. We're a survival squad of 6. We're looking for supplies and reliable companions. If you're interested in joining, you can come out and talk. If not, we'll leave right now and not bother each other. We'll give you 5 minutes to think." The footsteps receded. My wife looked at me. "What should we do?" I was hesitating too. If we continued to hide, they already knew we were here. If it came to a fight, we only had 1 axe while they were 6. If we joined them, who knew if it was just another trap? My daughter suddenly said, "That uncle's voice doesn't sound like a bad person's, out of the mouths of babes. But sometimes a child's intuition is very accurate." I took a deep breath and made a decision. "Let's go out and see. But remember, stay alert." I opened the door. 3 people were standing in the hallway. The leader was a man in his 30s, refined looking and wearing glasses. "Hello," he reached out his hand. "My name is Chen Dong. I used to be a doctor." I didn't shake his hand, only nodded. He didn't mind pulling his hand back with a smile. "I understand. No one dares to trust others easily these days." He looked at my wife and daughter behind me. "How many of you are there?" "Just the 3 of us." "Ah, you have a child." His expression softened a bit. "It's not easy to protect a child in this environment. What do you want?" I asked directly. "Cooperation," Chen Dong said. "In the apocalypse, it's hard to survive alone. There's strength in numbers." He pointed to himself. "I'm a doctor and can handle injuries and illnesses. Our team also has a veteran and an engineer. Everyone is useful. And so, we are building a real survival team. Not a makeshift rabble, but a team where everyone has value and trusts each other." It sounded wonderful. "Why should I trust you?" Chen Dong thought for a moment. "How about this? Travel with us for a while. We're heading to the south of the city. We heard there's a military safe zone there. You can observe us on the way and leave any time. If you find us trustworthy, stay. If not, we'll go our separate ways once we get to South City. What do you think?" My wife and I exchanged looks. We were headed to South City anyway. Being with a team was indeed safer than the 3 of us alone. "All right," I said. "But let me be clear. If you have any ill intentions—" "Don't worry," Chen Dong interrupted. "We aren't those kinds of people. Those who think of harming others in the apocalypse don't live long." Just like that, we temporarily joined the squad. Besides Chen Dong, there was Zhang Qiang, the veteran responsible for combat and sentry duty. Li Ming, the engineer skilled at repairs and making tools. Sister Wang, a nurse and Chen Dong's assistant. Zhao Zhao, the youngest and a college student but a fast runner, and old son in his 50s, who used to be a driver. They had 2 vehicles, a van and an SUV, and their supplies seemed quite sufficient. "Get in," Chen Dong said. "We need to reach the next safety point before dark." My daughter sat in the car and fell asleep immediately. She was too exhausted from the past few days. My wife held her and rested her eyes as well. I sat by the window, secretly observing these people. They coordinated well, and their words and actions were measured. They indeed didn't seem like bad people. But I still didn't dare lower my guard. In the first moments of the apocalypse, do not trust anyone easily. The convoy moved along the highway. Along the way, we saw many tragedies: overturned military vehicles, burned down checkpoints, and swarms of corpses. It seemed the military's retreat hadn't been smooth either. "There's a gas station ahead," Zhang Chang said. "We're almost out of gas." Chen Dong nodded. "Be careful. The gas station looks abandoned, but the pumps might still have some stock." The convoy stopped, and Zhang Chang took Xiao Zhao to investigate. 5 minutes later, they signaled it was safe. "Ladies, stay in the car," Chen Dong said. Others help out. The men got out and started siphoning gas. I noticed their actions were very professional. Someone kept watch while others worked, coordinating perfectly. Just then another convoy appeared in the distance, 3 cars appearing to have quite a few people. Something's up, Zhang Cheng the lookout warned in a low voice. Everyone immediately stopped what they were doing. That convoy also noticed us and slowed down as they approached. Don't be nervous, Chen Dong said. Maybe they're just passing through. But I saw Zhang Qiang's hand already on his waist, where there was likely a weapon. The other cars stopped 50 meters away, and a person got out, walking over with hands raised. Don't shoot, we just want to ask for directions. Chen Dong stepped forward. What is it? Excuse me, how do we get to South City? Our GPS is broken. Keep going along this road for about 30 kilometers. Thanks. The man turned to leave, then suddenly looked back. By the way, friendly warning, there's a zombie swarm about 10 kilometers ahead, at least 100 of them. We took a detour. After saying that, he got back in his car, and the convoy continued on. A narrow escape. But this news made everyone tense. 100 zombies? Li Ming frowned. Do we have enough fuel for a detour? Barely, Old Sun calculated, but if we detour, we won't reach the planned location before dark. Chen Dong thought for a moment. Let's detour anyway, safety first. Setting off again, the atmosphere was noticeably heavy. As it grew dark, the night meant even greater danger in the apocalypse. There's an abandoned motel ahead, Old Sun said. I've passed by here before, we can stay the night. 20 minutes later, we reached the motel. It was a 2-story building that looked fairly sturdy. There were a few abandoned cars in the parking lot, but no zombies were seen. Investigate first. Zhang Qiang took Zhao Zhao inside. 10 minutes later, they signaled it was safe. We drove the cars into the parking lot, preparing to stay the night. The motel's first-floor lobby became a temporary base. Chen Dong arranged for people to take turns keeping watch while the others rested. Dinner consisted of canned food and compressed biscuits. Though simple, everyone ate heartily. We should reach South City by tomorrow afternoon, Chen Dong said. I hope there really is a safe zone there. There will be, Sister Wang comforted. The government won't abandon us. But I heard uncertainty in her tone. Late at night, I held my sleeping daughter while my wife leaned on my shoulder. The first night joining this team was relatively peaceful. Maybe cooperation really is the only way to survive, but a voice in my heart kept reminding me, be careful, be ready to run at any time. Because in the apocalypse, today's friend might be tomorrow's enemy. In the morning, I was woken by my daughter's laughter. She was playing a paper folding game with Zhao Zhao. This college student was good with kids, folding various little animals to make her happy. Old Sun frowned. Just drive slowly, Zhang Qiang said. It's better than running into 100 zombies. Everyone began packing up to leave. I noticed Li Ming tinkering with something in a corner. What are you doing? I walked over, a simple alarm, he said without looking up, made from batteries and bells. Put it around us when we sleep at night. It'll ring if anything gets close. It's a very practical thing. Can you teach me? Li Ming looked up at me and smiled. Of course. He explained the production method in detail. I listened intently. This knowledge could save lives in the apocalypse. What did you do before, Brother Liu? He asked casually. Ran a supermarket. No wonder, he realized. I was thinking you looked like someone who was prepared. I didn't respond. Once on the road, the mountain path was indeed difficult to navigate. Narrow roads with a cliff on one side and a deep valley on the other, with fallen rocks in some places. Old Sun drove very carefully. Our speed slowed significantly. Around noon, the convoy stopped for a rest. Everyone got out to stretch and take care of business. My daughter pulled Zhao Zhao to the roadside to pick wildflowers. Don't go far, I warned. Got it. Bye-bye. Watching their departing figures, Sister Wang walked over. Your daughter is so cute. Thanks. It's not easy being able to protect a child so well at a time like this. Her tone was somewhat emotional. My son she didn't finish, and I didn't ask. In the apocalypse, everyone has a past they don't want to bring up. Actually, I quite envy you, Sister Wang continued. At least your family is still by your side. Just then, Zhang Qiang suddenly shouted, a car is coming. Everyone immediately became alert.